Crow Country is a game that honestly took me by surprise. I was checking on the Steam page and I saw it, and then I realized it was coming out tomorrow. And just a quick glance of the way it looked and that it was a survival horror was enough for me to buy it. Seriously, I didn't even spend a full minute on that page before I pre-ordered it. Sadly, because I have a job and college, I wasn't able to play until a few days ago. Damn it, I should have been there day one with a video. Damn you responsibilities. But anyways, I love this game. I already beat it twice, once in normal difficulty and another one in the Murder of Crows difficulty. And I basically 90% it. So yeah, it's a short game, so I figure I could maybe actually go in depth into this game for a video, because I have a lot to say about it. By the way, there will be spoilers in this video, so yeah. I will go over the story and you'll see gameplay and puzzle solutions. Maybe. I'll try my best not to show any, like actual codes for locks and stuff. But again, there will be spoilers. With that being said, let's talk about the gameplay first. This is as Resident Evil as Crow Country gets. This game is fantastic in the gameplay department. For me, personally, I absolutely love the fixed camera Resident Evil games. Third person ones are great too and all, don't get me wrong, but there is something about the fixed camera, the simple combat, and the focus on exploration and resource management that I much rather prefer over the 3D Resi games. Yes, I admit I mostly rather replay and get into the third person games more, just because they are faster experience, you just hop in and play. For the fixed camera games, you kinda have to commit, you know? So usually I let that fixed camera survival horror game itch for a while, and I was just craving that itch. And Crow Country hit that G spot. Okay, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about the good first. I love the shooting mechanics in this game. There is actual aiming, which I really like. Fixed camera games usually go for an auto aim mechanic thing, which is fine, I like it. But having actual aiming is so much more fun. And yes, I'm aware this isn't really a fixed camera game, but it kinda plays like one. Shut up, you know what I mean. The camera in this game is mostly really good. Mostly. I love the angles they give you, and you can rotate the camera too. The PS1 graphic style, the kinda not really fixed camera with the quality of life improvements of actually being able to move the camera is great. However, at times the camera placement can really mess you up, and it could have actually been fixed pretty easily. At times during combat or while you're running around, your camera goes over walls and objects and you can't really see shit. So if you're trying to shoot something in front of you and you go up against a wall or something, it can be really bad. In Resi, this isn't that bad because you have auto aim, but in here, your aiming has to be right on top of the enemy in order to, actually kill them. So they could easily just fix this by, whenever your camera goes over a wall, it goes transparent or something so you can actually see yourself. It's an easy fix. So yeah, I feel like they will fix that at some point, maybe. Also, whoever decided that whenever entering or leaving through a door, the camera should face you, why? Why do you do this to me? No, seriously, this is actually super annoying and can get you killed. This game has enemies all over the areas you run around, and a lot of times they're literally right outside the doors. So having to turn the camera all the way around so you can see what's in front of you fully is really bad. Especially because you have to avoid enemies. Yes, this is one of those survival horror games, aka an actual survival horror game. So most of the time you kinda go, okay, I know the enemy spawn, I know which direction and maneuvers to perform, I'm ready, let's do this. And then you go through the door and it's like they put a fucking blindfold on you. Seriously, it's annoying. But other than that, the camera is great. The game is divided into 4 areas: Fairy Tale Town, Haunted Hilltops, Ocean Kingdom, and Crow Country, and the Underground. And honestly, it's a really well paced game. It's only around 6 hours though, which is honestly kinda good. Usually games like these are around 9 hours or so, but 6 feels just right for this game. However, I will admit that for the first playthrough, the first hour of the game was so overwhelming. At least that's how it felt at first for me. You have a lot of map available to you, and if you're dumb like me, you'll probably miss something on the ground and won't be able to progress until you find it yourself because the map doesn't tell you, or in my case, you might miss someone. No, seriously, how the fuck did I miss him? Like, the first little area after you enter Crow Country has so much shit on the floor, just like randomly scattered on the floor, in the middle of the floor and everything. And this is kinda true for the rest of the game, even with enemies. I'll go over that later. On the main difficulty, a lot of times it almost even feels like fighting and resources are literally optional. I mean, I found it weird that you basically have infinite ammo for your pistol at all times on the trunk of your car, which you can access at any time, by the way. So when you have infinite ammo, you kind of feel that safety net that is behind you, you know? Like, oh, don't worry about resources, we got you covered, just go do the puzzles. Especially because a lot of puzzles make it so you actually have to use ammo to do them. Like, of course it's not draining all of your ammo, maybe you'll use 1 or 3 shots, but again, it kinda makes you feel like your ammo is disposable, and it shouldn't really ever feel that way in a survival horror. Although to be honest, I never really went back to pick up ammo from my trunk, so maybe I'm just tripping. It feels, and I'm pretty sure, maybe that you could go for the whole game without killing anything. It feels like the devs really focus on this aspect, but it also feels like it's kinda right on your face that you don't really have to kill anything. It's great. I really like it when devs add more than just kill everything and win. I love it, okay? But a few things like the infinite ammo, kinda ironically, show how fighting isn't really a major focus of the game. If you actually had infinite ammo for the purpose of killing, then the game would be mad piss easy. And the devs know this, so infinite ammo is available to you so you can actually complete the puzzles that require you to shoot, so you don't get soft lock. It kinda pushes you on the direction of dodging and avoiding fights, which is great, that's a survival horror for you. But it also kinda de-emphasizes the idea of combat enough to make it feel like you don't really even want to bother with it. It's really rare to find an enemy that's actually on your way that you have to actually kill them. Okay, hold up, I know you're about to go to the comments and be like, oh my god, you hate this game, I hate you, I hate you. The devs most definitely didn't want this game to be a combat focused survival horror. It certainly feels like they wanted to make this a unique experience, which they really nailed down. What I'm trying to say is that if you're experienced with other survival horror games, at times this might feel like a completely different experience, or as if you're too experienced. Sometimes the game goes from survival horror to like a puzzle game. Instead of resource management, puzzles, and combat, the game goes into a sandbox puzzle game of sorts where you completely forget about resources and you kinda just run around collecting items, avoiding and dodging enemies, and doing puzzles. It's a harsh shift is what I'm trying to say, and adding to the whole combat doesn't have to be a focused thing. You only really have 4 weapons available to you, 2 of them being considered secret, the Magnum and the Flamethrower, so you can actually just beat the game without finding those 2. So you'll just have the pistol and shotgun, and that's if you complete the shotgun puzzle. I just feel like this aiming system has potential to be really enjoyable if explored thoroughly, but for what it does, it's great. Let's talk about the puzzles now. I actually have very little to complain about here. These vary from really easy to really hard. However, a lot of times I find it that the answers are 80% of the time in text. And this is gonna be 100% a nitpick, okay? I'm not saying the game is terrible because of this. Did we get that clear? I mostly mean that to have any chance at figuring out a puzzle, you'll have to read text over and over again, stopping the game in place to reread text until you get it. It's not because I don't understand the puzzle, it's mostly because I gotta run from one item with text to the other item with text. So I'm just going back and forth between multiple items like that, reading what they say. And then I kind of forget like, oh wait, what did this one say? And then, oh shit, what did this other one say? I don't know, it's just really annoying to have to do that. I wish there was like a log in the menu or something that tells you what you just read, so you can put everything together like all at once. Because there's actually quite a few puzzles that make it so you have to read stuff. And I honestly would recommend you to play this game with a notepad next to you, because that's exactly what I did. Unless you have a huge bulking throbbing brain with eidetic memory, there's not a single puzzle where I actually had to look up. But yeah, the puzzles are fun and they do make you think, which is really all a puzzle needs to be. Like I said before, you have 2 secret weapons. Well, there's 2 more if you beat the game with a B rank or higher, but those are kinda like bonus items, so yeah. For now, I must say that I love the way the secrets in this game work. There's 15 secrets in total and they are just upgrades for you. Sure, like 7 of them are just magnum ammo, but the rest are actually upgrades for your weapons and character. This is something Resi didn't really do at all. I mean, Resi 3 kinda had this. If you crafted enough ammo, you could make even better ammo. But nothing like here in Crow Country. Permanent upgrades fit survival horror games really well. I just love that this game has them. You can run around faster, you can heal more, you can upgrade your weapons, and everything about this is really good. And honestly, they're pretty well hidden. I ended up finding 2 of them in my first playthrough, which is literally like nothing. I find it though that the only reason I wasn't able to get more is because I literally just forgot some rooms had stuff in them that I needed to go back to. Not because they were hidden. I mean, I guess they are hidden in the map, but the way the map works just fine. But I do have a few nitpicks here to say about it. First of all, it tells you basically nothing but what puzzles are in what area. This might just be me feeling so accustomed to the new Resi remakes with the map that literally tells you everything, even the secrets. But I guess if there's anything to improve on, it's telling me if there is anything left to do in that room. Maybe even make that an upgrade. I mean, you can unlock a secret map that tells you the location of secrets and the location of these crow collectibles. I do kind of find it weird though that they only tell you the locations of the ones you already shot. Like, why? I know they're there already. But for the actual complaint of the map that I don't even think is like done for any real purpose and is maybe purely a flaw, is that there is no arrow on your character to tell you which direction you're facing, and your character icon doesn't even move at all. So basically it only tells you that you're there in that spot. But the problem, but not really a problem at the same time, is that this game has incredible environments, so you already kinda always know which area you're in. Every area in this game is so memorable. It's not like I don't know where I'm at. It's mostly that I want to know which direction I need to go, you know? But then the fact that you don't have an arrow on your icon, the funky camera shifting position when you enter and or leave an area can be really disorienting. I couldn't tell you how many times it has happened that I went through a door and I knew which direction I wanted to go to, but the camera is shifting in position and then there's enemies right outside that door, so I only have like a second to react, made it so I was panicking and disoriented. So I opened the map to know which direction to run to, and nothing, no arrow on the icons, even just a compass would suffice. No, but seriously, multiple times in the middle of running or even just in combat, I opened the map because I had a quick escape plan or idea, or I knew which direction I didn't want to get caught in because of traps and enemies, but then I receive a facepalm because there is no arrow on the icon. This is actually a huge deal for Murder of Crows difficulty, but I'll go over that later. Okay, that's it for my map rant. Overall, the secrets are well hidden and as they should, and they are really fun to find and are actually really rewarding. So yeah. Let's talk about the enemies now. They all have unique and really fun designs. I find them to be really eerie, and the atmosphere of the map and the graphics kinda make them feel out of place, like they don't really belong here at all. They are awesome. Like I said before though, they mostly act as obstacles than enemies. You're never rewarded for killing them and you gain nothing from it. And the fact that they're mostly put in streets or main areas you run around in make them feel more like obstacles as well. They get the job done. They're scary and sound scary. I really like the realistic moments of pain they have going on. With graphics like this, you kinda expect them to have a cartoonish sound or something, but here, nope. I love it. There are 4 optional bosses in the game, and even those don't reward you with anything at all. Just the password to leave that area. But you can leave the area if you just know it beforehand. So even the bosses are optional. Every enemy in the game seems to be optional to kill. Every enemy except the final boss. The enemies vary. There are blob-like enemies, and there's a huge enemy, but only for like 2 of the enemies are actually noticeably different from the rest. The childlike thing basically doesn't notice you right away. It has like a 2 or 3 second delay before it starts chasing you really fast. And the smaller enemy zombies thing has a huge attack range. But honestly, that's about it. Even the most different looking enemies like the skeleton thing doesn't really act much differently from the base enemy zombie. So apart from those 2, the rest of the enemies in the game basically act and attack the same way. They walk around until they spot you and chase you for a tiny bit, and that's about it. So even if they did really have a small difference in their behavior, honestly they're so small I couldn't even tell. Not that that makes them a bad addition to the game, they work perfectly fine. Now if I have absolutely any complaint about the game, I would disregard my previous nitpicks and want them to fix this. Please get rid of the traps or make them less severe. I really don't see the point of the traps. Look, there is a shotgun trap puzzle you have to solve. That's a good trap. One you can actually escape from. But these traps just feel so cheap. And it's irritating. And they honestly don't make sense lore-wise, I guess. Like, there's no explanation for these traps that just spawn and scatter around all over the damn game. They are in basically every room and they respawn as well. They do severe damage to you and honestly feel so cheap. You know how I said the game turns into running around, dodging enemies and solving puzzles? Well, I didn't mention how not only are there areas where you run around that are full of enemies, but they're also full of traps. Most of them which can only really hurt you. You can take advantage of some, like 2 of them, but aligning your aim and the enemy to be in the right spot is honestly very hard to do. And very situational. The situation you'll be put in most of the time is running from point A of the map to point B of the map while dodging and avoiding enemies and traps. Look, traps can be okay, but the fact that they're scattered all over the place and it's not just 1 or 2 traps per spot, it goes up to like 4 or 5. And honestly, they can be really hard to spot, especially this duck poison thing. I fucking hate you. So at points, you might as well just run through everything while you dodge everything, because if you don't get caught in a trap, the enemies will get you, or they will drain your ammo. So just run and dodge. This is where the running shoes actually came in clutch. They help you run through everything. So the traps are basically resource drainers. They are put there to make you use your healing items because they know the enemies can be easy to dodge. So they just place traps all over the damn place to make sure you don't have as much healing. Now in Murder of Crows difficulty, traps turn into nightmares. Obviously, you take more damage in this game mode and resources are actually limited. You no longer have that ammo in the car trunk. So here, when you are in point A of the map and you want to go to point B of the map, it basically means that you'll have to use at least one healing item per trip. Because the enemies are much more feral. They are more aggressive now and they do more damage. And the traps do more damage as well. And not to mention that there's also these added spike traps on the floor. It's like they know the game basically turns into running face first into traps and enemies. So when you're running out of meds and you see how you have to go from point A to point B, you basically get this panic and stress attack. Like, okay, I basically can get hit as I run through these sections full of enemies and traps. It's actually really stressful, which is great. But at the same time, it honestly kind of feels fun to run around through enemies and traps. It actually feels really cool. But at the same time, I can see how the traps make this game play out much more differently from others. But anyways, there isn't anything much different in this hard mode difficulty. It's just limited resources and more aggressive enemies. Honestly, for the first playthrough, this is a bit too hard because of the traps. And the normal mode is a bit too easy. So I find it that for a first playthrough, there really isn't a good difficulty. But Murder of Crows is honestly kinda rewarding to play for your second playthrough. It's funner now because you actually know what to do and because resources are limited, so it really does feel like a tug of war for resources between you and the enemy. There is also another difficulty which is basically a sandbox mode. There is no enemies here, not even optional bosses. I'm not sure about the final boss though. I didn't really beat this difficulty. It's such a fun game to play. At times it might not feel very survival horror, but other time it really does bring that survival horror element to shine. And it's really fun to play all the way through. It doesn't overstay its welcome either. It's just the perfect length to be able to be replayed over and over again. If the most I can criticize are nitpicks about this game, like a map icon not having an arrow or text being annoying to reread because I forget, then you know this game is really good. Now we're not done yet, let's talk about the story of the game. Don't worry, I won't just read you and tell you what happens. I'll animate the whole thing, or at least some of it. So yeah, let's get into the story. So basically Edward Crow, who I'm just gonna keep calling Crow, and his father were walking around in Georgia when he was just 10 years old. They found a weird metallic root sticking at the floor and they did nothing of it. And then they found another one just 100 feet away. And his father decided to cut one for the memes. And there was gold inside. And this is where everything basically started. So yeah, he saw gold and basically thought, money. Bitches. So Crow's dad bought the land where these roots rest, trying to harvest the gold from them. And eventually... And for some reason, Crow says, oh, I'm gonna pick up where my dad left off. And which is weird because in the game, in one of the phone calls, he states that he doesn't care about the gold, he just wanted to pick up where his dad left off, which is weird. Like, the main reason your dad was doing this is because of the gold, and now you just want to keep going for like no reason. But yeah, I'm evil, but not really. Muhuhuhuha. So anyways, Crow hires Tollman, who's in charge of the excavation, and he also hired Pike, who's in charge of hiding the excavation with the park. And together they make the evil Powerpuff Girls. There was a problem though, there was too much gold coming out of nowhere, and the IRS didn't like this. It was also very suspicious that the gold came in cylinders, because that's not natural. So Crow also hired Marv, who's in charge of the gold operation. So basically his job is gold laundering. I don't have to explain what money laundering is because you've probably seen Breaking Bad, so... Anyways, in Brazil, Marv finds a mine shaft where they can pretend the gold comes from. But yeah, that's basically the whole lore behind the park and everything, and everybody's kind of like part in this. But eventually something was gonna go down, and yeah, there's one major event that basically triggered the whole game. But before that, everything was already kind of going down. Eventually suspicion grew in both sides. In Marvin's side, you could pretend the gold is from there, but it's not really from there. So what they needed to do is Marv would send soil back to Crow Country, and in Crow Country they would make rocks. Yeah, like a fucking rock factory. but instead of rocks they would make gold, which is why in the game you'll see like these gold making areas. But anyways, Marv sends soil back to Crow Country and they make the ore there, and then they send the ore back to Brazil so they can claim it's from there. But the problem is that you could tell Marv is like a very not good liar even in the game, and you can tell this because of just the way he acts in the game. He's super like twitchy and stuff. You already know what kind of character he is, the one who can't keep his composure. So eventually the Brazil inspectors kind of realize that, hey, he's acting suspicious, maybe we should check the soil in the ore. Eventually Marvin kind of runs away from Brazil and goes back to Crow Country to tell Crow that they're basically like done for and he's gonna take him down with him. And on Tollman's side of the story, the excavation crew was getting suspicious of what they were digging for because Tollman wouldn't give them any answers. So they were like, yeah, we're not gonna dig if we don't know what we're digging for or for what reason we're digging for. So in reality, suspicion was just growing in general. Like they were gonna get found out anyways. Alright, so let's get to the main event. I think I should say right now that I had to run around and basically go over all my footage to find all the pieces of lore I could find because there's really nothing about this game on the internet, at least not yet. It's still fairly new. It came out like a month ago or something. But so yeah, I had to piece everything together myself. I might get something wrong because I missed a paper or something, you know? But anyways, it's very unclear, but at some point Crow found a pool, and the pool is this green goop of interdimensional juice in the underground, basically where the roots come from. But at some point, somebody just appeared out of nowhere from the pool. So they go over to check on that someone that just popped up out of nowhere, and he was unable to speak. Kinda. He was able to speak, but it was very hard to understand him. Soon they took that guest to a cell up in the theme park to investigate him, and Crow wrote down what he understood from him, which was very little. And this all took place in 1988 when a girl named Elaine, who is 15 years old, gets split up from her parents at the park and ends up in that cell. And somehow she managed to get herself hurt from that. Like, why are you getting so close to the fucking zombie looking human covered in blood? And eventually Elaine is taken to the hospital and the doctors can't find a cure for whatever she has. And because of this, the whole park closes down for 2 years. And then skip forward 2 years, Mara shows up. And spoilers, Mara is Elaine. So she basically came back to be like, hey yo, I'm dying, to Crow. And then Crow's like, yeah, me too, bruh. But don't worry, I got the cure. Yeah, and that's basically the story. I mean, I know I basically went over this huge like in-depth like analysis of the story, like the lore behind the Crow Country, and then the events of the main game are actually just, I'm dying, oh, I got the cure, that's it. But I mean, it is really kind of what happens in the game. During the events you play in the game, nothing really happens. It's all about unraveling the mystery, which is 100% fine. I'm not complaining. There didn't need to be a huge set piece or anything like that for me to enjoy this. It's all about the mystery, and the mystery is really engaging. The characters also help a lot. Yeah, a few characters feel like they have no purpose in this game, but even they have like really interesting dialogue. Maybe it's just Mara. I don't know, there's something about Mara. She's really cheeky and endearing. It's always super amusing to see what she has to say about stuff, like her responses. It always keeps you like, I wonder what she'll say. And I guess that's low-key kind of a hint to you that she's not an adult yet. Elaine was 15 when she got like in that injury thing, and Mara is not an adult yet, so I guess you could put together one-on-one, especially because Marv asks Mara what age she is, and she goes, I'm old enough, which is like a response somebody who's not old enough would say. But anyways, 2106 is a number that is pasted all over the place, and at the end of the game, Crow gives us the paper that the guest wrote down, and the number is plastered there too. And it basically says how the Earth became inhabitable in 2106, which is a year, not a code or anything. And this basically kind of confirms that the portal or the pool is basically a portal to the past. And this tells us that the zombies that come out from the portal are basically people from the future that came to warn us about that year. And the reason they come back as zombies is because the roots that Crow has been destroying his whole life basically are like antennas to the portal. So whenever somebody goes through the portal now, they come back all distorted and stuff, and they become zombies. And that's basically the idea behind the pool. I think it's evident that the developers didn't really want to reveal everything at once, because even after the conclusion, it still feels mysterious. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and a lot of questions I just have in general. For example, we don't know if it's because of the pool that the year 2106 is inhabitable, or because of something else. It could be something completely different, unrelated to this, because it's kind of unlikely that they would use the same pool in the future to come back to the past to warn us. Because think about it, if they know it's because of the pool, if they came back to warn us about the pool making zombies, it's because there is zombies in their timeline already, which means they know about the pool like not working. So why would they jump in and come back as zombies to tell us, you know? But there's this piece of dialogue in one of Crow's conversations with Mara that basically say that Crow thinks that this year is like a critical point in the timeline or something, and that's why, and they came back to this specific point. So maybe it is a portal to the future. I don't know, this opens up many possibilities and loopholes. And I think it's a really interesting take on the whole time travel thing. Usually you're the one going through the time travel, not somebody else. So it's really cool to see the different perspective of the time travel idea. But yeah, I still have a lot of questions and things I want to say about the game. This game is really good. I could keep talking about it for hours, but I really want to keep this video under 30 minutes and it's already kind of there. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this. So yeah, thanks for watching.